Piper and John.
Hi, John. John who? John Burgess.
I'd like to welcome everyone here.
Sean Don.
My name is Cassie, and I was
For the town and
Mimi's youngest stepdaughter, actually the only stepdaughter, so along with my brothers.
when it was in the basement.
And
That's when I was.
I know most of you. Some of you I knew when I was 10, and some of you when I was in college, and others when I could probably be your grandparent. But it's wonderful to see everyone here and all the stories they have about Mimi. I probably know Mimi, except for my brother Toby, who's here, the longest of anyone. In fact, she came to work at the Alta Lodge when Bill Shorter's here too, and he hired Mimi. When I was 10, my father homeschooled me and my brother, Toby, and Mimi came to work, and one of my jobs was to interview her as a new employee of the Alta Lodge. Mimi at that point, after several months. Being homeschooled was not the best thing when you're, kind of 10, 11, you kind of want some other friends, and you're up in Alta, and your good friends are in their 20s, and they're doing things that you probably shouldn't know about when you're 10. At any rate, Mimi mentioned that she had gone to this wonderful boarding school in upstate New York. So in the spring, in a place called North Country School, and we have a North Country School person up there. Several North Country School people related to North Country School. And we Toby, my father, and Mimi got into her Mustang with a 6-pack of Coke in the back seat and headed to North Country School in upstate New York. So I went there. It was a very pivotal thing. It was one of the favorite things in my life, and it turned out to be one of the favorite, I knew it was one of the favorite things in Mimi's life. She's always has had a very, very warm spot for North Country School. I spent the next years there and off to high school and college, and I would come home in high school and stuff, and Mimi and I would go horseback riding down in the valley. That was before Draper is what it is now, and Sandy is what it is now, and you could ride all the way to around Point of the Mountain and into Alpine. Basically, it was maybe crossing one paved road. I mean, it was amazing for horseback riding. So that was my connection with Mimi. And I know all of you have other connections. She always had a smile. She always made you feel like you were one of her best friends. If you were a guy, you always felt like she was flirting with you. She had a wonderful sense of humor. Puns were, as you can tell from her comics that she has up there. She loved a good pun. She loved her red wine. And she loved her family and her Alta family and her Friends of Alta family, which is another thing that she introduced me to and became such an important part of her life. And it became a very important part of my life, and it's been part of Alta's life. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to my son Wilson, who has decided to speak for the family besides me.
Hi, I'm Wilson Dibbo. I'm Mimi Levitt's grandson. And yeah, just wanted to talk to everyone here about who Mimi was and what she meant to me. So growing up, she was Grand Mimi, and she was just the face here at the Alta Lodge and the face in Moab, and she always just made me, and I'm sure the rest of my family, just feel so home and so present in these places. When I was 18, my grandpa passed away. That was Mimi's husband, Bill. And I remember, being an 18-year-old kid, and the world didn't really extend more than 3 feet beyond my own eyes. and being at our small family private memorial that we did, and Mimi just being there comforting me. And looking back on that now, I kind of cringe that she was in this moment that was probably the hardest of her life, and she was putting her energy towards her family. And like I said, I look back on that and cringe, but at the same time, I think about who Mimi was. And Mimi got her strength, and she defined who she was as a person by how she cared for the people around her. And so I'm not sure that she would have wanted it any other way than that. Then I look at, how she was as a person here at the Alta Lodge. As many of you guys know, the Alta Lodge was definitely Mimi's first love. This is her place. And on any given day, the way that she would interact with the guests and with the employees, she showed a similar level of care. And the way that she showed that care was by remembering. It was by remembering guests' names. It was by remembering little things like the way or places you like to ski, where you went to school, your pets' names, all those sorts of things. Mimi knew that stuff, and our society just we're just enamored with, child prodigies that just can do math and things like that. And I don't want to take away from any magic here, but Mimi had a great memory, but she did that because she cared. It didn't just happen. She studied, she took notes, she really, really listened when people talked, and that's so much more impressive. It's not a party trick that she just remembered this stuff. She knew it and felt it in her heart, and that was her way of telling people here, whether you were an employee, whether you were a family member, whether you were a one-time guest, that she actually truly cared about you. And so I think that's something that, I hope to take away in my life, is that the way that we make other people feel is not an accident, and it's not something that just happens. It's actually a choice, and Mimi made that choice every day to make people feel good and make people feel heard and feel seen and feel welcome. And so that's the thing that I'm most proud of Mimi about. And I think that's going to be the biggest hole is who's gonna fill that and make everyone feel so heard and so welcome. I'm going to tell one more quick story here. It was shortly after I had graduated from college and had a friend out here skiing with me. And it was one of the many different types of perfect Alta ski days where it had snowed heavily the day before, but it was a beautiful sunny day. And, they were just opening up different parts of the mountain, and we were on, our fourth run or something like that, and coming down to the line, we see a purple one-piece ski suit that I think a couple people here might recognize. And so immediately hop into line with Mimi, and we're riding up the lift with her, and she says, "Oh, I heard that I think ballroom's gonna open up here in a little bit." And so we decided to go hop in line with her. There were just a couple people there, and sure enough, a few minutes later, a red and black jacket skis through and pulls the rope, and we go and ski. And my friend who was here, he wasn't super familiar with Alta, so I waited for him at the bottom of ballroom. Mimi had gone a little ways down Main Street, and so I'm waiting for him there so he doesn't get lost, and he gets down and he's out of breath, and he goes, "Dude, your grandma rips." And I think he didn't know half of it. So love you, Mimi, and thank you guys all so much for being here.
Thanks. I'm Pat Shea, and I've known Mimi and I knew Bill for 4 decades. And Mimi was an incredible inspiration. And there's a theory I have that each of us have a favorite place. Now, Alta happens to be my favorite place. And then when you have a favorite friend who lives in that place, it's sort of a double benefit. And Mimi truly loved Alta. And 45 years ago, we started the Alta Defense Fund. And we had at least 3 lawsuits, and then one that we settled. But Mimi was always backing us. And if any of you have been guests at the Alta Lodge, I'm sure that you met Mimi urging you to make a donation. And so when we started out, we were the Alta Defense Fund. And then after we got sufficient money to pay for a lawsuit, we became friends and have remained friends ever since. But she was inspirational. And I remember Bill calling me up one day, and he said, I want to get divorced. And I said, well, I can do that. And he said, I want it done today. And I said, well, I can get a judge to waive the 30-day waiting period. And then he said, and I want to get married today. So I said, well, I'm not sure we can get that waived, but I had a friend who was a judge, and I explained who it was. And he said, oh yeah, that's fine. So I called him back, and I said, well, you've been divorced and you can get married again. He says, well, I want to get married today. So call Mayor Wilson and get him up here so we can get married. And he did. But Mimi was a remarkable soul, and Alta owes so much of its legacy to both she and to Bill. So here's to Mimi.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the Levitt family and Rosie and everyone who works here for putting all this together, and for letting me come up and say a few words. So I'm like most of you, I've been a guest, but you become a friend, and Mimi had that magical skill to knit together all kinds of people to do all kinds of different things, whether it's running a lodge or going off skiing or doing a fun lunch, or one day announcing that we were going to go on a snowcat ride. And I thought, well, okay. I assumed that someone from the lift company would be driving a snowcat and we would get into it and we would go someplace. And no, Mimi says, just follow me. We go out I think we go out through the locker room. And around the corner, there's this little orange snowcat that I'd never noticed before. And I said, is that the snowcat? He says, yeah, that's my snowcat. Your snowcat? I didn't know you had a snowcat. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I said, I guess that means you can drive it. Oh yeah, I can drive it. So we all get into the snowcat and we drove. I think we went down to I can't remember why we were doing this. I think maybe it was like, it couldn't have been Interlodge, but whatever it was, there we are riding in the snowcat. And it's got these levers and things, it's not like driving a car, okay? And I just was sort of, as we're riding along, I said, does everybody at Alta know how to drive a snowcat? She said, no, not everybody knows how to drive a snowcat. They don't all have a snowcat, but me, I got a snowcat. So, we just, your estimation of what is possible when Mimi is involved is completely altered, because, after all, once you've got a snowcat, the sky's the limit, okay? So at one point, some of you probably know that my daughter came to work here. And what my daughter doesn't know is that Mimi was recruiting her since she was 5, okay? Mimi had been paving the way gradually, telling her all the great things that could happen when she finished college, and she could come here to the lodge, and she would have this great experience and all that sort of stuff. Of course, it was the year of COVID, so that kind of did crimp things a little bit, and then there was a small accident on the highboy, but we got over those things, and Mimi shepherded her through, and it was all good. And along the way, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, I started helping Mimi with some of the work managing her father's archive of photographs. Her father, as you all probably know, is a very famous photographer. Anyway, So Catherine, my daughter, finishes her stint at the lodge, stays 2 seasons, goes off to grad school. In the time between that departure and the last conversation I had with Mimi, the second or third sentence every time I talked to Mimi would be, do you think Catherine's ready to come back to the lodge? Because I think we'd really like to have her come back to the lodge. And, well, Mimi, she's in grad school now, and I don't think she's going to, we could make a space for her. We really could, okay? I mean, I think there's some room at one of the houses up on the Summer Road. I mean, it would be different. I mean, she might, Mimi, I can ask her, but I don't think, and I think Mimi was thinking maybe Catherine was going to come back. I mean, it's just, and it could still happen. It's just that Mimi won't be here to see it, but maybe she will. Anyway, all of you are here because, in part, of Mimi's interaction with all of you and the way that she has knit together this whole place. I mean, the lodge, the work with the Friends of Alta, the makeup of the people who work at the lodge, the guests who would come back year after year and meet up with people that you would see the year before and the year before, and people who had planned their whole winters around what they were going to do and who they were going to see. And so that's a real special skill, and you don't find that type of environment very often. And so in reading, I think it was the Salt Lake Tribune's piece on Mimi, I had never heard Mimi referred to as the Queen of Alta. Okay, I mean, that was news to me. Apparently I was a subject. Didn't know. Never got any taxes that I was aware of. Okay, but then again, as it mentioned in the article, she said, well, they'd never had a coronation. It's like, well, I mean, okay, it's never too late. All right, so long live the Queen.
I'm not sure how many of my remarks will be different from those that you've already heard. We love Mimi. She's the reason we have been guests at the Alta Lodge, we think, since 1972. I may challenge Cassie to figure that out, but I think that's all paper, is not computerized stuff, and I don't think that'll work. But we have been coming here since 1972, my wife Molly, who Wilson is called Grandmolly, and I and our 2 sons and our 2 grandchildren. They've all been here, they're all coming back, we'll all be here in December, and it's the highlight of our family way to spend discretionary money. It really is fabulous. And it's a lot of money. My grandson Will tomorrow starts his 4-year college stay at Middlebury College. He will graduate in the calendar year 1929 when his great-grandfather graduated from Wesleyan, and he should have gone to Wesleyan, but he didn't, because I did too. He will be here the next day for employment at the Alta Lodge, I'm sure of it. Throughout all, we met Mimi, 72, 73, could be that. And she became the constant to us. We didn't know anybody else in the building. Bill was a good deal years older than Mimi, and certainly my wife and I. Mimi was our go-to person at the Alta Lodge, and the way that the culture and the memory of who's coming next, I think, Cassie, you said it, she studied. She looked at the guest list of people coming in, and she knew who you were when you got here. It was that kind of commitment to all of us. I don't know where else you'd go. We spent one night at the gold miner's daughter. We fell in here, and we haven't gone anyplace since, and just simply not going to do it. It's too good. Mimi, one day, she called me. She said, I want you to come on the board of the Friends of Alta. And I noodled that for a while and finally did it. And then she said, I want you to run the board meetings for me. But I did it. At some point, I left and it was time. I finally got to know what Friends of Alta meant to her. And it was a big deal, and it's a big deal for Molly and me and my kids. Our grandkids don't know it yet, but they're growing into it. We love it here. We love Mimi. We thought a lot about how much it costs a lot of money to come here. Where else would you go? I mean, this is the best combination of lodging and skiing in the country. It really is. That's a narrow-minded point of view. I've been accused of that. But I'm right. I look around at the people we've met here over the years, staff. Some of them have been here almost as long as we have. The management, Mimi and Bill, and then Marcus and Cassie, and they have lightened the load, and they've chosen the management of the place with great care, and it's going to be a great success. Rosie and company are going to be fabulous. I would ask, I guess, one last thing. It's on the program, and it's been in the obituary. If you think you wanted to memorialize Jimmy, send something to the Friends of Alta and just put her name on it. I think it'd be terrific. I've already done it, so I can speak from honesty and commitment. We appreciate it very much. I look around the staff. We love you. You're great. You provide a terrific service. And we won't see you again until December 18 or 19. And we'll be here for a week. Thank you very much, and thank you to Mimi.
Go. Come on.
I'm not shy. I've never been shy.
Okay.
Don't let him
I'm gonna let you do it.
Yeah, Skip Selloway didn't talk quite loud enough so I could hear everything. My name.
Can you remember us?
I just turned 85. What's my name? Bill Shorter. And I hired Mimi in 1966, I think, or 65.
The 65-66 season.
Yeah, pardon?
65-66 season.
Yeah, that year, right. And then I got fired in 69. And I won't tell you why. Okay? But back in the 60s, we would get applications for the lodge, a letter, saying I'd like to be a waitress, chambermaid, whatever, and a little picture that you took in the booth. No, Mimi sent an 8x10 picture. And about the end of August or early September, I'd put them out on a table in the dining room. And then the ski patrol and the people that worked here all summer on the lifts, they'd come through and say, hire her, hire her, hire her. Well, the 8x10 did it because we hired Mimi. Whew, I might get emotional, I hope I don't. But it was a great experience. She stayed here longer than I did. Thank goodness, because I think she had a feeling like we all had back in the 60s in our heart for the Alta Lodge. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much.
If anyone else, for a short, we do have a little bit of extra time, it looks like. So if there's anyone else that would like to say anything, please feel free. Otherwise, I will hand it over to my better half.
I want to again say thank you to everybody for coming. I think I've got a chance to say hi to most folks, and I'm sorry if I didn't have time to really spend time with you. But it's so wonderful to see everybody here and celebrating Mimi. Originally I wasn't going to. Yeah, I'm not on the program.
I penciled you in.
I inserted myself in because Mimi has so many relationships with so many people, and she has her sister-in-law Kathy was a regular person to talk to her on the phone for years, and had a chance to chat with Kathy just leading up to the preparation for this event, and Kathy mentioned that she and Mimi had a conversation about having, what sort of event would you have, what would you have said, things like that, and Mimi sort of said, well, I don't want people to fuss over me and stuff like that, so sorry Mimi, we're fussing over you now. But one thing that Kathy mentioned, and I think it kind of goes along with when Bill would perform wedding ceremonies, and I don't know how many people here have been married by Bill, and he always made it a wonderful event. And part of that was reading some poetry, and so Kathy had suggested a poem that Mimi had suggested, felt like it was the right thing to sort of sum things up. So it's called "Let Me Go." When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in the gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that once we shared. Miss me and let me go. For this is the journey we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the master plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we know. Laugh at all the things we used to do. Miss me, but let me go. I think it wouldn't be an Alta event if that wasn't the final toast, or a toast to say to peace and powder snow.